When I was deciding how should I build my frost magic kind of build, something immediately came to my mind, and that is one of the first B-plots that you fight in the first act of the game, and that you probably saw in the thumbnail of this video. Well, this is also very reminiscent for Ashe from League of Legends, or to some extent Sylvana Silverrunner from Warcraft. Not necessarily from World of Warcraft, I mean from Warcraft 3 on itself, even though that she wasn't a Frost Archer. I still feel like that while playing this build, and I love it. It just feels so fun. That being said, I wouldn't say that this is as good, for example, as the Necromancer Archer, because the Necromancer Archer has a little bit more means of controlling the battlefield. Still, this is very fun, very viable, and very cool to use. So we have Frost Magic, and we have two kind of, let's say two kind of little mechanics, which is Chill and Freeze, and that is, the build is going to be based entirely onto that. Now you can, of course, mix and match things around here and there from different types of school, but for this specific builds that are mid-game builds, I like to focus on something that is going to synergize with the basic thing that you have, which is in this case Chill and Freeze. Every time that you chill something, if you chill it again, you're going to freeze it. If you freeze something, it's going to be cool. Now when it comes to bosses, they cannot be frozen, but they can be chill as well, so it gives you a little bit more of control on the battlefield when fighting bosses as well. So Chill, what does Chill does? Well, basically it decreases their movement speed by 15% for 5 seconds. So if you're fighting as a melee, I don't see that much of a reason as to why you should be playing melee with this thing, because the movement speed, it is used to keep the enemy away from you, away from your face. Then freezing the enemies, if you add a second chill to your enemies, that is going to freeze them, meaning that you're going to deal more damage to them. Now if they explode, if you deal damage by using certain specific jewels, they are going to deal AoE damage with everything else that's around you. So the skills that we are going to be using mainly on mid-game, it's going to be two, which is going to be Frostbat and also Crystal Lance. This is going to allow us to always be away from the enemy, and to some extent these two guys right here are fairly similar to one another. When it comes to magic percentage, you have Frostbat, which is it's going to be a total of 200% damage. However, this is not going to freeze the enemies instantly. It's going to chill them, and then the second chill, it's going to freeze the enemies. On the other hand, we have Crystal Lance, which deals just 160% magic damage, but the thing is that this is instant freeze. So you can be mixing and matching these guys right here with your range weapon of preference, whether that being a pistol, a bow, or a crossbow. That's going to be dependent on to you. Now, granted, I do have a high level tier gem slotted in here because I'm playing the endgame at the end of the day. This is just purely for showcase purposes on the regular game. The thing is that you don't necessarily need to have like a tier 4 jewel to have the second one that we have right there. As a matter of fact, with a tier 2 jewel, you're going to be able to find the hitting a shield or frozen target shatters the projectile into 8 splinters, each dealing a damage percentage, damaging and inflicting chill. So when it comes to AoE, Crystal Lance is always going to be your main means of damage for AoE when you're being muffed. On the other hand, when you are being muffed, you also have your ultimate. I like to use Ice Block because it heals you and it deals damage as well, but if you want a little bit focus more on the DPS side kind of things, Arctic Leap is going to be your thing. As for the armor, we're going to be using the Dusk Watcher Chest Guards. This is going to increase our physical critical strike chance by quite a lot for each piece of armor that we have right here, so it's a total of 12% right there. And then the complete set, armor set, is going to increase the physical critical strike power by 20%, so our criticals are going to be dealing 20% more damage. You're also going to be pairing that with a rogue blood type to increase your critical strike power, critical strike chance, and things like that. Well, not spell power, the critical strike chance. And then the jewel that you're going to be using, it's going to be dependent of the Warlock, which is a 10% chance of primary hit to inflict chill, can only trigger once every 4 seconds, but it's also going to give you a 12% spell critical strike chance. And we are focusing our character right here on critical strike chance. We don't have that much survivability, we don't have that much when it comes to extra health or extra armor or leech and what have you, because the best offense for you is going to be the best defense for you is going to be a good offense. Mainly what you're going to be doing to survive with this character is just CCing the enemies, preventing anyone to getting close to you, shattering those mobs that you have in front of you. So it does require a little bit more of a intelligent playstyle, because like I said, if you compare it, for example, the Necromancer Ranger has the skeletons that are always chasing down enemies. Here you have to be on point. You have to be using your spells on point. And as a matter of fact, let's discuss actually about what is it that the rotation is going to do. The Frostbats and your Crystal Lance should always be spammed. But they should always be spammed when it comes to mainly the melee attackers, because you have a lot of ranged enemies in this game. You don't really have to care about them that much. You only have to dodge their projectiles. When it comes to melee things, you should always be using your Crystal Lance and then your bats. Do remember that your bats do not necessarily have to be like being spam from one to another, and one thing that you have to have in mind when it comes to the rotation of your skills of your Crystal Lance and your Frostbats is that, for example, if you have already, let's say, frozen an enemy is already chilled from one kind of specific source, you can deal damage and then you can freeze them. But once you freeze them, they are going to go back to normal regular state. So one thing that you can do is, for example, use a Crystal Lance, freeze the enemy, hit them. Once you hit them, you are going to go back to regular state. Then you use a Frostbat, that is going to freeze them once again, they go back to regular state. And then finally you use a final Frostbat, making a combo of 3 spells where you're going to be freezing the enemies 3 times. This is especially useful with those enemies that are always on your face, so that they are using shields and things like that and what have you. So the overall idea is to focus yourself that much more when it comes to the melee attackers on using your spells, and then when you have the distance, the far away enemies, the rangers and things like that, you're going to be using your weapon skills to finish them up. Anyways, like the content, like in the video, super appreciate it. And also, you're gorgeous and beautiful person. You're in the day, gorgeous and beautiful person. Have a lovely day, and goodbye.